Hey guys, welcome back. I am Jason Salyer, and you know I'm all about rubbing two sticks together to generate fire. There's something magical about just being able to go out into a wild place and create fire with little to no tools. But I'm also of the school of thought that says you should have the most reliable, easiest way to get a fire going if you're in a remote place. If your life should depend on you being able to get a fire going, or the lives of loved ones around you depend on that, why not? There's no cheating. There's no rules, right? In real life, break all the rules. If you want to carry a quart of kerosene with you to get your fire going, I don't care. Road flares, doesn't matter. I've heard of people literally carrying road flares in their vehicles, in their trucks, that people that live in really cold area, like let's say, minus 30 is a regular, and they carry road flares because they can just throw that thing down on the ground on the ice and then just start piling anything they can find, because being able to start a fire in a hurry can sometimes be the matter of life or death. My method around here is a little less, I guess, drastic perhaps than a road flare, but it's still foolproof. I'm going to show you, if you do what I'm telling you right now, you will start a fire every time, no questions asked. So first things first, cotton and Vaseline. If you've got these two things, you can almost certainly get a fire started as long as you've got some sort of source of ignition. And I'm going to show you how I prepare these. I'm making a whole bunch of them because I'm going to be teaching classes, and I'm going to be providing these for the students. And this is just some dollar store petroleum jelly, baby love, so you know it's good. But it is 99.9% petrolatum, whatever that means. It's petroleum jelly, and it is very flammable. And when combined with a fluffy white thing like these cotton balls, it's really easy to ignite with just a little bit of a spark. And now there's a healthy balance that is required when making these. Too much petroleum jelly makes it a little bit harder to ignite. Too little and it doesn't burn very long. So it's a feel thing. Usually what I do is I dip my finger in there and I get about, I don't know, let's say about that much right there, a fingerful. And that's going to be slathered generously inside of my cotton ball here. I'm just going to tear the cotton ball up a little bit and smother it around like so. No particular rhyme or reason. And I just coat it completely in that Vaseline. And then I'll squish it down like this. Squish it down, and I'll stick that in a Ziploc bag, and it's ready for the trail. Now that my hands are considerably more supple than they were before, not much cleaner. I had a guy in a video, you know what? I had a guy in a video one time accuse me of getting my hands dirty on purpose just so I could look more, I don't know, cooler or something on the video. No, dude, look, my hands look the way they look because I'm a man and I do man things. I digress. Now that my hands are soft and supple and nice and feeling good, I've got a bag full of fire right here. And then all I'll do, and this stores indefinitely. You can use these forever. What I'll do is I'll just squish all the air out like that. I'll roll the bag up, my Ziploc-y, seal it up at the top now that I got the air out. Just so it takes up less space. You don't have to do that, but just so it takes up less space in your pack or pocket or whatever it is. And now I've got, I mean, that's probably well over 30 cotton balls here. That's 30 separate fires that I could get going without question, right there in that small little container. Now all I have to do is collect my kindling. And that's any small little twiggies, preferably off of evergreen trees like pines. Like this is a white pine. This is perfect. Any small little twiggies that I can gather off of those branches, the dead branches that are not touching the ground, still attached to the tree, these little guys right here is all I need. And even if it's pouring down rain and all of this is soaking wet, I can still get a fire going. What a lot of people do is they break off the little twigs one at a time, and they get their little collection of twigs. Don't do any of that. Don't waste your time with that crap. Just get the whole branch like that. Take the whole branch, and then you only need a small amount of them. You only need a handful of branches like that to get all the kindling required to get your fire going. Take the whole branch and grab it by the bigger end. It makes it much more easy to transport from A to B. This is probably enough to get my fire going, just this one handful right here. Let's say that it's been pouring rain for days and everything is completely soaked. It doesn't matter. If you do what I'm telling you to do and you start your fires like this, you will be successful. So I'm gonna take all the wood that I just gathered and I'm gonna dunk it in the creek. It has been rained on. It is wet. It doesn't matter. I'm telling you, it won't soak in enough water to make a difference. As long as you don't pick up stuff off of the ground, it's not going to matter at all. If it's up off of the ground, it's still attached to a tree, it's going to be fine. I'm going to take all my nasty wet kindling here, and I'm just going to start processing it down. Now that I'm where I'm going to start my fire, I'm going to process it down, and I'm going to make myself some piles. 3 separate piles. It's going to be teenies, in-betweenies, and bigs. That's it. So teenies are the kind of really small stuff like this. Say pencil lead size, give or take. Really, really small. In-betweenies are going to be like, you know, this size right there, that kind of stuff. Maybe even all the way up to like maybe that. And then the bigs are going to be anything more like finger thumb size, something like that. So I'll have 3 separate piles. I mean, if you're in the rain, if it's literally raining right now, you're probably going to have to, and it's downpouring, you're going to have to build some sort of shelter. You're going to have to put up something to keep it at least a little bit dry, to keep the big droplets of rain from coming down. Not to say it's not possible, but it's going to be really difficult if it's pouring down rain on you and you got nothing to protect your baby little fire. Teenies, in-betweenies, and bigs. I obviously don't have very many, but for demonstration purposes, I think you guys will get the idea. I can create a sustainable fire with what I have right here, and then I would just add a whole bunch more of the bigs and then more larger fuels after those caught on fire. If it's been raining for days and days and days and everything is just completely soaked, it is definitely worth your time to scrape off the outer layer of bark on some of the larger twigs, the bigs and some of the mediums, because you can get rid of most of the moisture that's going to make your fire go out just by scraping off that outer edge, that outer layer of bark. That's what's going to hold most of the moisture. The wood on the inside is going to be fairly dry. The outside bark is going to be like a sponge and soak all that water up. You can skip a lot of steps and sometimes be successful. You could bypass a lot of this stuff and you could just jump right into it and hopefully the fire gets lit. But what happens is, more often than not, especially when it's wet and humid, like it is here a lot of time, you'll fail. The fire will go out and then you'll have to start over from square one, collecting your kindling and making your feather sticks or whatever it is that you're doing, and you burn through your resources, your lighter's gonna run out of fluid, all that. And if it's a survival situation, make it count. Do everything you can to the best of your ability to ensure that fire gets lit no matter what, no questions asked. Now with some of these in-betweenies here, these medium-sized sticks, I'll do the same thing. I'll scrape those off, get rid of that outside layer. If it's dry, then you can skip all this. You don't have to do it. But what I'm talking about is if it's crappy fire situation and everything is wet, scrape that outside bark off, get rid of all that stuff that's wet, and then just make yourself some really crude feather sticks. You don't have to be those pretty curls that a lot of people like to take pictures of. It doesn't have to look like that at all. Just make some really crude ones. I usually lock the knife in place on the ground or on my thigh or something like that, and then I pull, and then I'll just pull the stick, and that will give me the desired effect. It's just increasing the surface area of the wood so it lights easier, and it's exposing the inner dry part of the wood, making it just that much easier to light. And I'll make a whole bunch of little ones like this, little ugly feather sticks like this. I'll make a whole bunch. If you think you've got enough, double it. That's a general rule of thumb. I like to take some of my bigs, and if this ground was wet, it's a beautiful day. It's pretty humid, but it's a beautiful day. If this ground was wet, I need to be able to insulate my fire from that wet ground. So what I'll do is I'll take some of those bigs that I've scraped perhaps, and I'll put them on the ground to make a kind of mattress a nice, cozy, warm bed for my fire to get started on. And once the fire gets going, it can tolerate a little bit of moisture off the ground. But in the beginning phases, you got to be really careful with it. Yeah, and even as dry as it is right now, we live in such a humid environment, wet environment, and it has rained for the past few days. This ground, I can feel it cool and moist. This is warm and dry-ish. I mean, obviously I just stuck those in the creek, but it's better than the ground. And then what I'll do is I'll take one of my in-betweenies, the medium-sized sticks, and I'll just drive it into the ground at a little bit of an angle, like this. Kind of like that. Maybe another one. Not necessary all the time, but sometimes it helps. And all I'm trying to do is just create enough space where I can stick my cotton ball. That's it. Just enough space where I can jab that cotton ball in there, and it will be able to heat up and dry out all of my twigs. And one more time I'll go dunk this, just so you believe me. So that's in real time. Just dunk that in the creek. All right, you can see the water dripping off of it. I'll give it a good shake. Like that. And then I'll take this bundle of littles, and I usually try to break it in half, kind of like that. Because in the beginning, you don't want all your twigs really loosey-goosey spread out and spraddled out like that. You want them to be kind of compact, not too much where it can't get any air, but you want to make sure that the heat from that Vaseline cotton ball will get to all of the wood that you're trying to ignite and dry it out. It'll have an opportunity to dry it out. If it's too spread out, it won't. It'll just hit like a couple of the sticks, and you won't be successful in igniting the wood. So this wet pile of sticks I've got going on here, I kind of bundled up, and I'll pile on top just like that, right there. So I've got my bundle of littles, right? And a little cave underneath to stick my Vaseline and cotton ball right there. I'll have these feather sticks that I've created handy, sitting right next to my fire, so I can slowly add those as we go to generate a little bit more heat, because I know those are going to light up fast. I want my cotton ball to start heating this up immediately. Pull one of those cotton balls out of our bag. And then what I like to do is I like to take one of my feather sticks, and I like to capture that cotton ball in between a couple of those slits, like maybe that right there. And that just gives me a handle so I can manipulate it and put it exactly where I want it, at least for a little while until it burns through the wood. And then all you got to do is just fluff up a little bit of the cotton like that. You don't want to make it too fluffy because it'll burn up too fast. You want it to be a little bit condensed, a little bit compact. So right there is all you need to do. We can ignite this with anything. It doesn't matter. In this situation, I'm going to use a ferro rod and a knife. If I do my job right, and I lock this thing down, this knife down in place, and I pull this ferro rod really hard and fast, it'll throw a lot of sparks and ignite it on the first go. And then I'll just stick it under here like that, and I'll start feeding in these little feather sticks and let those get lit up like that. That cotton ball and Vaseline's gonna burn for a while, at least a minute, probably more like 2 to 3 minutes. I don't know exactly, I haven't timed it, but I'm gonna start feeding in these feather sticks very gently, being careful. When your fire's young, you gotta be really careful with it so you don't put it out. But as it starts to grow, you can be a little bit more forceful with it. Not so careful. And all this heat is helping to dry out those wet twigs, the littles that I put on there. The teenies. See that? And now they've already caught on fire. I like to use pines and other evergreen type trees because of the resins and stuff that are in them. it helps it burn in the initial phases. You don't want to cook with it. It's not ideal unless that's all you have, obviously. But it's the best, absolute best for getting fires started. It's as easy as that. The wood that was stuck in the creek just a minute ago is now on fire. I'm already comfortable saying this is a sustainable fire, and I've done nothing to it. I did all my preparation in the beginning. The actual lighting the fire and getting it going just takes a few seconds, as long as you've prepared. The Vaseline and cotton balls is not always necessary. You can find tinder, you can dry it out. It's a process that takes a lot of time and effort sometimes, especially where I live. Some places it's not so hard, but here sometimes it can be a real challenge and just take a lot of time. But having one cotton ball that's soaked in just a tiny little bit of Vaseline can make all the difference and help you get a fire going. So guys, I really appreciate you watching. I hope you learned something. Can't wait to see you on the next video. Leave lots of comments for me and subscribe if you haven't done so already, so you can keep track of all the stuff that we're doing. And yeah, can't wait to see you next time, guys. Thanks for watching. See ya.